you played in the NFL, you were a running back. You didn't introduce yourself ever as the right guard on the punt team.
Right, exactly.
So I've got to make it important, I've got to make it fun, and I've got to be able to show our guys how what we're doing is also going to make them a better offensive and defensive player. Because at the end of the day, Demo, it's all football.
Coach Lembo,
How you doing?
How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great.
You know, before we even take off here, Coach Lembo, that's become one of the most famous and most popular lines here in Gamecock football. I gotta know right now, where do you come up with that little phrase?
Well, when you're born and raised in New York, my friend, that's like common language every day. Every day.
That's everyday language.
And one of Tony Soprano's favorite.
Oh, Tony Soprano. Now, when we start going there, Coach Lembo, this might last a few hours.
That's right.
Coach Lembo, everybody know, associate head football coach here at South Carolina and special teams coordinator for Gamecock football. So I've got to start right there, Coach Lembo. Tell us a little bit about how did you get started in the coaching profession?
Well, I was really fortunate to go to Georgetown University, Washington, D.C., first one in my family to go away to college. And of course, we had a lot of famous basketball centers there, but not too many famous football centers. But I played all 4 years. Most of my buddies went to Wall Street or law school, but I always had this passion for the game, everything about it, everything that went into it, and was drawn to coaching.
Wow.
But it was a tough road coming from Division III and working my way up. And one thing led to another, and in my early 30s, I was the head football coach at Lehigh University in Pennsylvania. 15 years as a head coach at 3 different schools, Elon and Ball State. And during that time, my passion for special teams grew because as a head coach, you get drawn away from the X's and O's from time to time. You're trying to spend time with your players. You have all these administrative duties, especially at those smaller schools where you don't have a ton of help. So special teams became an area where I could still be hands-on on the field with the kids, feel like I was coaching every guy on the roster. And it's been a fun last 6 years having a chance to do that.
Holy cow, that's amazing. Well, I can tell you, I'm biased. You are awfully good at it. I just wanted to throw that out there. So, you know, there's nothing like a Coach Pete Lembo special teams meeting. You walk into that meeting, you've got graphics and images and pictures and music, and I mean, you even name players. You've given them nicknames, but your own style, is that more of your own personality, or who are some of the people that you may have gotten some of those things from? Where did that come from?
Well, I think you have to be real, you have to be authentic, you have to be comfortable with yourself. What I've learned about players the last 30 years is they're fine if we're all different, as long as you're real and as long as you are the same guy every day. I've got to bring energy, I've got to bring passion. You played in the NFL, you were a running back. You didn't introduce yourself ever as the right guard on the punt team.
Right, exactly.
So I've got to make it important, I've got to make it fun, and I've got to be able to show our guys how what we're doing is also going to make them a better offensive and defensive player. Because at the end of the day, Demo, it's all football.
Oh, wow.
So we're constantly trying to correlate things and keep them engaged. And so our guys know when they walk into a 20-minute special teams meeting, they might get called on. They've got to talk the same language. And the nicknames and the movie analogies and the historical analogies, that's all just part of keeping it interesting so that when they walk in there every day, they're on their edge of the seat.
Wow.
And hopefully they walk out of there after 20 minutes and they learn something.
Oh, how about that? Now, Coach, you know, you're one of the veteran coaches on Coach Beamer's staff, but also want to add, you know, your ability on game day. I've watched you on the sidelines, and this is your second year with the program. You have an amazing level of calm. You never change during the course of the game, irregardless of where the game's going. Talk a little bit about both of those things if you can.
Sure. Well, my philosophy is you got to coach with incredible energy at practice, but if you've done a great job preparing during the week, Saturdays are for the boys. That's for the players. So on Saturday, your even-keeled nature, your calm, your confidence that's showing them that you believe in how they've prepared and how you've gotten them ready for whatever might get thrown at them in that 3.5 hours.
Wow.
So, and I've always found that the more even-keeled I am on game day, I can try to think ahead, what's coming next, what scenarios might we have to be ready for. And then you mentioned about helping Coach Beamer. 15 years as a head coach and 170 plus games, you've seen a lot of scenarios.
Wow.
You've seen a lot of situations where maybe you ought to kick a field goal or go for it. Maybe you ought to go for it on 4th down, or maybe you ought to punt it. And any kind of insights that I'm able to share on game day to help us win, that's what I'm there for.
Oh, that's fascinating. That's awesome. Coach, we're at William Bryce now. There's no one on the planet better to articulate the history of the Gamecock like Coach Lembo, because from my understanding, I've done my research, you're a bit of a history buff, if I'm accurate with that, because I'd love for you to talk a little bit about the Gamecock.
I enjoy history, and South Carolina as a state is full of history.
Wow.
Some of our greatest donors at our university helped us produce, create, and plant this beautiful, huge Gamecock here in front of Williams-Brice Stadium. So the history of this is really twofold. First, Thomas Sumter was a Revolutionary War general.
Oh, wow.
For the Americans, and he had this fierce fighting style, kind of a General Patton style of attack, and he just caused a ton of problems for the British with this guerrilla style warfare. And so he earned the nickname the Fighting Gamecock back during the Revolutionary War. Now, we adopted it in 1902 when, believe it or not, some of our students, and as we know, we have a very rowdy student section here, a super supportive student section. So imagine our student section back in 1902 getting into a little extracurricular activity after a football game against a big rival.
Wow.
And adopting the nickname the Gamecocks after that, way back in 1902.
Wow.
So some great history here in our state, Revolutionary War, Civil War, and some great history here with the nickname Gamecocks for Carolina.
Oh, wow. You see, it's that type of fresh historical content that I know all of our fan base, all of our alumni base, all of our former players, love to hear. And no one could deliver that quite like you, Coach Lembo.
Well, you're very kind.
That was exceptional. Coach Lembo, what an awesome time this has been. You spending this time with us and sharing your experiences in the coaching profession, but certainly here at South Carolina. And we are looking forward to even greater days ahead for Gamecock football as a result of your efforts and the work that you do.
You're a great man. I consider you a dear friend.
Likewise.
It was a lot of fun today.
Thank you so much. Awesome, Coach Pete Lembo. And I won't say it. I'm going to do it for you right now.
Do it.
Go Gamecocks.
I love it.
Love it. And that's a wrap for today's episode of Cruising with the Coaches, presented by EasyGo. Hey, if you want to find out how you can win one of these custom-built Gamecock cruisers, what you can do is just click on the link.